Button. Okay, there we go. Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome back to the Gold Rush Weekly Watch List. So I think there's going to be a lot of the same names that we've seen in the past. Some of these setups have changed, have shifted. Some of them have done a continuation. So let's just go through, before we get into the names, let's go through the economic calendar. This week we have CPI data coming out on Tuesday, OPEC monthly report on Tuesday, PPI on Thursday, and then retail sales data and jobless claims on Thursday as well. And then just looking through some of the names, that we have for earnings. We have Oracle, Asana, we have Clover Health, we have Kohl's, looking through Dollar Tree is one that we like to play with every once in a while. We have Vroom, which probably isn't going to do that good. We have Petco. We have Sentinel One. We have Williams Sonoma. We have DKS, DG, Blink, Ulta, PagerDuty. Let's see. Oh, look at that. I didn't know Soho House was public. Interesting. And Soho House, who's apparently is a public company, reporting on Friday. I actually I was going through my list last minute to see if I could find anything more interesting to talk about, but let's start with SPX. So the names that are reporting this week, I don't think there's anything really like dramatic. I think that like DKS and DG and DLTR and Kohl's, those are probably going to be interesting for the retail sector. So I would look to see how they affect like XRT. Some of that may affect IWM. I think that at this point, I think that tech will continue to just kind of run the show. Wherever tech goes is wherever the rest of the market goes. Nothing is new, right? It's the same story. So real quick, just looking at SPX, if we look at it, I just like to, follow where we are now. We're currently trending upward, higher highs and higher lows. We came back on this price action to retest some of these highs here. And we came and retested it and found some support, as hoped for and expected. And it's just riding this 20-day moving average. The price action this week was all over the place, right? With the doji forming on Monday, and then kind of a gap down, and then price action breaking previous day's price to the upside on pretty much all 4 days after Monday's gap down, or Tuesday's gap down rather. So really interesting. So what I want to see for SPX is, and QQQ is exactly the same, right? I want to see price come back to this area for SPX around 51, 5110, even like as low as 5100, right? Come back to 5100 and retest it as support. Find support at 5100 and then continue to work its way up, right? Just little by little. Nothing parabolic like this, just small calculated moves. Now, one thing that I do notice is, especially like on the smaller time frames, if you are watching, especially here at all-time highs, smaller time frames, 15-minute, 60-minute, you'll find that SPX and QQQ, SPY, ES, etc., right? The whole market will hit some new highs and like slowly work its way to hit some new highs and then find some sell pressure and immediately like rip to the downside. That's the case. That's what happened to us on Monday. It happened to us on Tuesday. And then it also happened to us on Friday, where price would just like kind of hit a little bit of a sell pressure and then just immediately rip to the downside. And like by rip, I mean like 2-3 candles, 3 or 4 candles on like the 5-minute chart, straight like big engulfing candlesticks. Speaking of engulfing, we had an engulfing day on Friday, engulfing Thursday's price to the downside. So if this continues to move to the downside, I mean, we can target some of the volume on Wednesday's price action. We can target the close of Tuesday's price action, and the final target, I think, for this would be the low of Tuesday's price action, right? So you can see like nice, it looks like about 25 apart, each of these for the most part. So if we can't take over the high of Tuesday's or Wednesday's high, then I would think that that we work our way down to try to retest some of these lows and work our way back into the 20-day moving average. QQQ looks exactly the same, right? The only thing with QQQ is that, this formed a double top. Instead of a higher high, it formed a double top. So, I mean, we obviously did break and make a new high here on QQQ, new all-time high on QQQ on Friday. But, it wasn't enough, right? A bunch of sellers sitting in this area. I guess some sellers that were waiting from back here. There's definitely formed a little bit of a supply zone, because you can see how price went sideways a bit and then dropped, right? Same thing. Last time it came back into this area on Thursday, it kind of sold off a little bit, and then the next day it ripped up, and then there's a bunch of supply sitting up here, basically meaning a bunch of sellers waiting to just bring the price back down. So with QQQ, it's very important to hold this 20-day moving average. It did gap down below it on this day. You see a bunch of buyers stepped in and kind of kept the price up where, up above this previous support. Right, so you see buyers in this area here around 421. Same thing over here, same kind of like key interest area, 421, 421.72. So that's the last time that I was really underneath the 20-day moving average. It tested it on this day, on Tuesday, and it looks like it might want to come back and test it this week again, unless we hold support on this level here around 439, 440-ish, right? So that's what I'll be watching underneath. And again, underneath Friday's low, we can target Wednesday's low. Underneath that, we can target Tuesday's low. If we get underneath Tuesday's low for whatever reason, I think we're headed towards like 428.36. And then 421, if we really want to get dramatic, 421.73 would be the last line of defense where the 50-day moving average is. Now, is it possible? Absolutely. Is it likely? Absolutely. And you'll see why in a few minutes. The next ticker we have here is XLE. XLE slowly making all new highs, for the year. XLE currently sitting inside the range of Thursday's price. So strong price action on Thursday. XLE sitting right within the range, more towards the upper side of it, right? Where you see this kind of wick form and push price back down. Price is slowly working its way to fill that back up, right? So I think that XLE is going to break above its high day, rip through Thursday, work its way into 89.09. That's going to be my target for XLE for this week. Now, the only way that works is if energy sells off, right? Energy needs to sell off. Tech needs to sell off. Tech needs to sell off. Financials need to sell off a little bit. Money needs to flow into energy. So, I would go ahead, if you like it, I would go ahead and set your target, set your alert at the high of Friday. Usually, like whatever direction energy opens up at, it usually sticks with that direction. Now, if you want to be cautious, you can go ahead and give it 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Let it set a range first, and then from there decide which direction, decide if you want to play it or not. So that's XLE. Next one's XLF. XLF is sitting at a previous high, not quite at all-time high, but pretty close to it, right? All-time high being, what's this? All-time high being here at 41.70. So we're pretty close to it. If we can continue moving up, then 41.70 is in reach. Right now, price is trending upwards. I just want to, so we did consolidate here in this box for a couple of, maybe 2 weeks or so, right? Price kind of sitting in this area here. And even like Thursday we opened up and we closed back into the box. Friday we opened, made a new high and closed still like right in the box, right? I got my high from this box from the high of day here on Tuesday. So actually I think I might be off by a little bit. Let's see, there you go. So I need price to break out of this box in order for me to see strength in XLF. Will it do it? I don't know. I think with the rate cuts, I don't have the effect. I can't affect the market, so I can say whatever I want. So I could make the mistake and say rate hikes. Imagine if like Jay Powell said rate hikes, the market would send it to a frenzy. But I think that with the cuts, I think everything is positive for XLF right now. I think that it's just poised for strength. If we do break to the downside for whatever reason, I mean, this is a hammer at the end of the day to the downside. If we do break, we do have a potential pivot machine gun. We have 4 days of higher lows, which we can rip down very quickly. We have support sitting around here, obviously at $40. So that would be an interesting play if it were to break to the downside. I don't think it will. I'm not sure if it will. So we'll just have to monitor and see what happens. Usually whenever the market opens, I look at SPX, QQQ, XLE, XLF. If XLE and XLF look good, then I'll usually pop over to Oxy or XOM and to JPM first, and then if JPM looks good, I usually pop over to GS. I like how GS has been moving lately. And if QQQ is looking good, obviously we're looking at semis, the hot ticker right now. So we're looking at any semi names, usually NVIDIA, usually AMD, TSM. TSM is one of my favorite ones to play. And if everything's kind of going sideways, then I usually look at like retail, DKS, et cetera, et cetera. I look at some of the smaller names because usually like if things are kind of going sideways, one of those small names is typically moving pretty strong. Every day there's a bull market somewhere. So, all right. So the next one is IWM. IWM hit this number at 209.05, which I had from a previous weekly high here, this week's high, and we rejected it. So it looks like there's a little bit of supply there, and I would expect there to be supply pretty much in this entire area. I think all of this is going to be filled with sell pressure. I don't think this is going to be the easiest spot to break through, right? I don't think that's going to be the easiest spot to break through. So let me get rid of some of these. Yeah, okay. I don't think that's going to be the easiest spot to break through. So I would just any pops, maybe short the pops until the rest of the market is in line. IWM, I'm not quite sure. I'm not in lockstep with it quite yet, but it does make like pretty decent moves. Let's look at the smaller time frame. It trends nicely, right? It trends nicely. It actually went sideways on this day, kind of sideways on this day, kind of sideways on this day, sideways. It trended down on this day, trended down on this day, sideways here. I think this ticker is really good to scalp. You can get some really good price action out of it, especially out of like the 15-minute or 30-minute time frames. And this is like another SPY or another SPX where it's like really truly shows you every single pattern that you're looking for in the market. Scalpers delight, I would call it. But I'm not quite in lockstep with it yet, but it did make that high, rejected. I want to see it hold current levels. If it does pull back, maybe we can have it pull back into this level here around 205, 204, see if it can find some support, and then from there work its way back up. Otherwise, it's headed back down to that 20-day moving average as the first stop. All right, so let's get into the names. I have a list in front of me, and I have my list that I normally go through. So I'm just gonna go through and kind of scratch things off as I go. I don't really have a format to this today. Now, one thing I want to point out is we're still in this broadening formation. You see prices is discovering its way up and down. What a broadening formation looks like for the most part is just kind of price testing its boundaries, seeing where it can go, right? I don't think that Amazon doesn't look like it wants to give us a true broadening, although things can change at any moment, right? It can easily say, you know what, I haven't seen the 50 in a couple of days. Let me go test the 50, right? The last time it was there was way back here in January. And it's pretty extended from the 50. And I think that's part of the reason why it's kind of going sideways, because it needs to let that 50 catch up. But if anything happens overall in the sector that involves Amazon, which is like tech, but also retail, and also technology, right? Technology services for their AWS. If there's something big enough, like maybe some sort of, some cyber attack, or maybe some bad news, bad press, whatever the case is, this can easily rip through this 20-day down to the 50. Now, if it doesn't want to do that, if it doesn't want to discover price underneath the 20-day moving average, it looks like, it looks like it tried it here, it came down, came up, came down, found the 20, and now it's using the 20 as kind of support. Doesn't necessarily touch the 20, but it does work its way. It does kind of bounce out of it. It sees it and it says, you know what, I don't really feel like going down that low. Let's keep going up. We got a test of Friday's high. We ripped through Friday's high, but then we closed lower. I want to see if Amazon can continue to make higher lows, right? If it can continue to hold this trend, not necessarily this line, but the trend, work its way into, even if it doesn't go higher, let it come high, let its lows be higher, right? Sorry, that was a little bit rough for me to get out. Right, because we did have a high here, we had a lower high here, so price contracted, and then it expanded to the upside. I don't need it to expand to the upside. I just need it to continue to hold this support, as long as let it hold that support while the 50-day works its way up to it, right? And then from there, we can work our way into making new highs. I still have this risk reward play here for it. You can obviously adjust it however you see fit. But if you continue to just keep the risk at the previous day's low, you see that this is going to get much, much better. Ultimately, we're targeting 185 for this play. It might not do it, this month. It might wait till April to do it. So, and I don't think I've actually called the new play for Amazon out yet. We've been in the 315, 180s, and it paid nicely last week. I think that there's still more, but it really depends on what happens with this trend that's going on here. So I'll be watching Amazon this week. Next one is Nvidia. Nvidia is on my list. Let me cross it off. Going back to QQQ real quick. QQQ, I was saying, it might easily rip through this 20-day and work its way down into the 50-day and back into some of these levels. The reason why that will happen is because of Nvidia. Nvidia will be the reason why that happens, right? I'm looking for support at 823.94. I wanted to, if it's going to pull back, it hit as high as, what was the high? 974. Bunch of sell pressure came in, engulfed the previous 2 days. With this type of price action, with this type of energy to the downside, I think that it has more. I don't think it's done. You see a little bit of buying pressure here. Let's dial into the smaller time frames. Yeah, you see like a little bit of a relief bounce here occurring at previous resistance, right? Here's previous resistance, support, little bounce here, but then it faded right underneath it. So I think 823.94 is a good level for this to kind of find support. If you look across at a previous price action, that was the high here, and then a nice level of volume. One pretty much the entire afternoon worth of volume sitting in that level. So I would love for it to come back and kind of retest that level and find some buyers there. I'm not sure if it will. If it doesn't, it's going to work its way back to that 20-day, right? Which is sitting around $783. And underneath that 20-day, we can easily head to the 50-day. But I would say that it's a bit extended for now. I think that maybe. We just, we take a day at a time. Let's aim for 823.94 for the most part, and then if that doesn't hold, then 799 underneath that, 783.50 for Nvidia. Next one is CVS. I like CVS for an upside move. It did kind of consolidate above the 50. It dumped underneath it. We did have a positive earnings. We beat on both sides. I'm not sure how strong the guidance was. I think it guided well enough to bring the price up, back up above the 50, but it couldn't hold the 50. So that's a little bit of weakness there. But I do see this trending in the right direction, right? You see that the highs have gotten higher based off the earnings catalyst. The highs have gotten higher, and now we're coming down to make a new low, sitting at the 100-day moving average, which is just a little bit higher than these previous lows here. So price is trending in the right direction. Let me go to the weekly on this real quick. This can easily be like a resting bar for a continuation downside move to test the 200-day moving average very, very easily. Now that I'm looking at it on the weekly, I see this very, very clear wedge that's happening. I'm not going to go ahead and, I guess I can. I guess I can bring it down from all the way over here, right? I guess I can do that. That's not going to kill anybody. So we do have this price contracting into this wedge on the weekly. Now, I don't think that I don't think it's that serious. It was just very easy for me to draw. However, I do see, I see this high and then I see this lower high over here. And I didn't want to give it a crazy angle of attack. I could have easily done this. I usually don't like to do these because these invalidate very quickly. So I like to give it a little bit more of a realistic slope, right? So going back to the daily, price is just working its way up higher and higher. I think that CVS wants to be above that 50-day moving average. I wouldn't be surprised to see their potential catalyst occurring within the industry in the next couple of days, especially with like some of these other, CVS at the end of the day is a retail name. So, you get some good movement in the retail sector. I think CVS will stand to benefit from that. So I'm looking for, just zoom that out. I'm looking for a break of day high, target the 50. Above the 50, we can target, the first stop will be 77.09. I would need it for it to kind of hold that level and then work its way into 78.02. Above 78.02, we have a slight little gap here. And then, it just gets really interesting here because I think this is like a battleground price here. This is where buyers and sellers like to fight, right? You see all this pretty much 5 days of consolidated price action before it ripped to the upside. So I think that if we get back to this level, I think we're going to consolidate again once more. Maybe either reject and come back down, try to form a higher low, or rip through just like it did last time and go and try to make new highs. So I like CVS. I like the price action on it right now. I think it's interesting and I want to keep watching it. Next one's JP Morgan. JP Morgan, inside day. Just make sure that's an inside day. Let's see. High 190.46. Yep. So inside day, I'm targeting JP Morgan for a short, break of the low of day. We could test the previous day's low. And then we have some other lows here. I'm not going to go as far as saying that it's going to come down and retest Monday's low. But I do think that if we break Friday's low and Thursday's low, I think that we can go back into $185.10. I think that's very achievable. So I'll be watching out for that on JP Morgan. That's it. Nothing too complicated on it. And it's not like a multi-week play, right? We're going to take this play and we're going to flip it upside down. At the end of the day, we had our entry here at whatever it was. I think the entry was at 186.20 or so. It went, the high was 190.49 and we took it out on Thursday and we even retested it on Friday. So this play was absolutely done. Good play for anybody that jumped into it. Now, the new play, again, it's not going to be something that's like multi-week swing, right? This could be a one-day play and call it, right? You put a nice risk reward on it. I would go ahead and target maybe 3 days, 2-3 days, maybe 2 days. And then I don't even think the risk reward on this is so good as it stands. But as it jumps into profit, you bring it down to the open of the day, and you get a 6-to-1 risk reward ratio. So not too shabby. And you could also just bring this up if you want to make it a little bit more realistic. If you want to just be in and out of the play in one day, we can easily break down below the low of Friday and rip down into 185 very, very quickly, in a day, right? So I'll be watching that for JP Morgan. Next one is Tesla. Looking at Tesla, I think it has more downside. We got this nice little weekly bear flag that broke to the downside. Let me go on the weekly real quick. And then looking at this, I can get rid of this. It already did that, right? Just putting things into perspective, you just got a trend of lower highs and lower lows. And I think that there's a continuation for that right now. This area here, let me just finish that play there. All right, so it ripped down and it put a strong bearish week on this week, and then it kind of went sideways a little bit. It pulled back, and then it came back and retested all this previous resistance here, or previous support here, right? You see these 3 candlesticks, came back and retested that level. Also retested, it was previous resistance in the past. So that's a very interesting level for Tesla. Actually looking back all the way, I'm just going to place that line right there. I'm actually going to change the color of it so we can distinguish it from the rest of the lines on the chart. Yeah, purple's not the best choice. Right, so every time that Tesla comes to that level, it does some funky stuff, right? It consolidates on it, it bounces on it, it consolidates on it, it rejects it for 4 weeks in a row, it rejects it the next week. It's a very interesting level. So what it did was it came and broke through that level very, very hard, and then came back and retested it, found resistance, and ripped down. So I think that I think like after a 5-week small rising wedge to pull back into that resistance level, to break down like that, I think we're headed back towards this level here. I think 150, 155 is more realistic. And then I think that if the sellers are strong enough, it'll bring us down to, 165 is more realistic. But then if the sellers are strong enough, it'll bring us down to 150, 237. Right. So let's look at it on the daily real quick. There's a little bit of support here, as you can see on Wednesday and Thursday's price action. But I think that sellers are in charge right now, and I think they're going to remain in charge. So I'm interested to see how this shakes out for Tesla. Next one is DKS. They have earnings this week. I like the setup for DKS because we had that inside bar. We tried breaking to the downside, but buyer stepped in. I think that this can still break to the downside. So the original play from Wednesday going into Thursday, Thursday going into Wednesday going into Thursday, Thursday going into Friday, same play is still, same setup is still intact. We still haven't broken the range. I mean, we did come and retest the low, and then buyer stepped in. I want to see where this goes. This can easily go sideways a bunch here, especially with the fact that they have earnings on Thursday. Or it can come back and test the 20 and then rip, or it can just start to move right away, right? Who knows? But I'm going to go ahead and set my alerts at the high of day on Friday. And I already have, I believe, maybe not on this chart. I'm going to go ahead and set my alert on the horizontal ray, which is the low of Thursday. And yeah, I want to see what it does. I want to see what it does. I think there's a big move coming out of this, especially with this gap up, new high, and then gap fill in one day. Consolidation. I want to see where the big move is coming out of, especially right before earnings for DKS. Next one, I have Coinbase here. I'm not going to talk about it. I want to see what happens with buyers, whether they feel confident enough to fill that wick, or if sellers are going to bring it down to test the low of day, maybe fill that gap. So I don't really have anything to state on it right now, so I'm just going to keep it off the chart for now. Visa. I'm liking Visa. Let me see. So Visa touched an all-time high recently. On the macro tip, it makes sense because, I think that a lot of people are using their credit cards right now. I know that I am for sure using my credit card right now. I've always used my credit card, bull market, bear market, doesn't matter. It's part of my financial automation process. But being in the market and being in tune with the market and in tune with macroeconomics and in tune with adulthood, you're susceptible to listen to what they're saying, what the reports are and stuff like that. And I know that cash is low, savings are a little bit lower, everything is a little bit more expensive. People are using credit. I know that for a fact, even from personal experience. Now, what I like about Visa is flagging after an all-time high. What I like about Visa is how it's working its way alongside this 20-day moving average, 4 days back to back. And you can even count Monday, right? 5 days back to back of price action on that 20-day moving average. Now, on Friday, price, let's go to the 65-minute. On Friday, price struggled to hold it. But at the end of the day, sellers will bring it down, buyers bring it back up. Sellers take control again and bring it down. And even on this red candle, it still closed above the 20-day moving average. Now, after hours doesn't really matter. However, I will say that price is still right alongside that 20-day moving average. I'm interested in seeing what it does on Monday, because if it holds that 20-day moving average, then I think that I can go ahead and try to test that 281.54 and put us, take us out of this range and put us into this range, put us back into this range. For Visa. So that's what I'm looking for. We do have the 50-day sitting right here. So, it can easily rip down and target the 50-day for some support before it works its way back up. I wouldn't be mad if it met the 50-day right above this level at 273 and change for continuation move to the upside. But we'll see what happens with Visa. But I do want to see what it does tomorrow specifically with that 20-day moving average. Let's look at GE. GE. Look at the weekly zoom out. Yeah, okay. Resistance, support. Support and resistance. Resistance. Back to resistance. Now above. I don't know. I don't know what their business is nowadays. What are they? They're selling like appliances still. I mean, the benefit of them selling appliances is they've been able to collect data, right? So that's good for GE to be in the 21st century. Oh, there's even oh oh boy, I thought this was like all time high here. All right, let's see. I forget GE's been around for like 700 years. Let me just see something. I think we broke this downtrend. Yeah. So this trend is broken. This trend is also broken. So I'm not gonna draw it. But and then they have earnings. They have earnings in 6 weeks or so. 7 weeks. So I like where it's at. It did gap to the upside. It's been ripping, absolutely ripping. It looks like they just had earnings actually a couple weeks ago, or in January rather, end of January. They beat on both sides. They're just getting good news. They got an outperform. Oh, that's what's happening. They're splitting into two companies. I remember this. GE Aerospace and GE Vernova Renewable Power Generation Company. Oh, so they're like really about it. Okay, cool. This changes the perspective on GE. This changes the perspective on GE. So aerospace, obviously defense, which I think they're already in the defense space. Right, makes a lot of sense. And then renewable power. That's good. That's good on them. They because aerospace defense isn't like the best, morally the best type of industry to be in, and then renewable energy, it's like it's like wearing two different gloves, right? It's like or having two different, it's like Two-Face kind of. Anyway, I like it. I like the fact that they're stepping into 21st century with their aerospace sector. I like the fact that they're getting to renewable energy. That changes their dynamic. Terry, I thought Terry was asking for a chart request, but this is a good one. I mean, this is great. This is great. There's a potential for a downside pivot machine gun, especially with that massive sell pressure coming in on Friday. Right, nice candlestick to form and bring it back to the 20-day moving average. It hasn't been back since earnings on January 24th of 2024. So nice potential for pivot machine gun there. I like this name. I'm going to add it to my watch list just because I think it's interesting looking, and the fact that it's changing sectors means it's going to change behavior, or not really changing sectors, but kind of like changing its identity. I mean, it's going to change behavior. Costco, I'm looking for a break underneath 725.56, which we slightly got a little bit of it. Break of 725.85, which we got on Friday. I want to see a continuation. I want to see a touch the 50-day moving average. Right. For a reminder, Costco has been the one that was ranging. I love showing this chart. I'm going to do it every single time. It's been ranging for about 2 years, and then it ripped and it broke. And, it did pull back a little bit here, pull back a little bit here, pull back a little bit here. Now we're getting a nice little pullback maybe into the 50-day. We haven't been at that 50 days since November of last year. So I'm targeting the 50-day. We could rip Costco puts, 700 puts, 20-point move. And that'll be the play. I'll be watching Costco first thing in the morning. Next one is Twilio. Twilio, I'm looking for. I'm still looking for 63.61. We hit that double bottom, ripped, made a new high on this candlestick, working our way into some of this downward price action. I want to see 63.61, which actually I'm going to update this. I'm going to bring this up to the 200. We're targeting that 200, 63.83. Pretty much said that your target is a 200-day moving average. Above that, we got the 100-day, and then we got the gap. So Twilio, I think, is going to shake out for us nicely as long as it continues to be as strong as it is. Next one is DocuSign. DocuSign. I just want to see if it can hold the 50. If it can hold the 50, we obviously gapped up. If it can work its way back up above this 50-day moving average, then I think that DocuSign can try for 61. Right, it can try for 61 at some point, but it needs to hold that 50 is a first stop. So that's it. I'm looking for a 50. If it can't hold the 50, it's probably going to fill the gap to the downside back into $53. Right, so fill this gap down to the downside back into around 53.49. Underneath that, we got the 20-day moving average. So this is going to give us a good play regardless. Either break and hold and then work its way up slowly. Right, it might not be ready tomorrow. Might take a day or two. But if it rips to the downside and takes out low of day, it's going to easily fill that gap. So be watching Docu. Hilton is slowly breaking out of that consolidation, that box. It tried on Wednesday. It tried on Thursday. Friday, we took out Thursday's high. And then let me see, 206.64, 206.65. And then we were shy of Wednesday's high by 1 penny. There's a bunch of sellers obviously sitting at the top of this candlestick here, these candlesticks here. So we want to see where it holds and see if it can work its way into breaking up, making a new high at 209.90 and then 211.83 will be my additional target for HLT. Next one is AMD. AMD, same thing. I like AMD for downside. I want to see it work its way back into this 196 level. It had an inside day on Thursday. It ripped it to the upside and it came way back down to the downside. Hold on. Oh, and we have quad witching this week as well, right? Let me take a look at the calendar real quick. Yeah, I'll take a look at Square. Is this quad witching Friday? Yeah, this is quad witching Friday. So this week is quad witching. Which means there might be really, really nasty price action to the downside or really chop all week until Friday, or maybe downside move and then chop on Friday. It's really just not fun price action. And I find that puts usually pay better than anything else. If it takes out the low of Friday, it can target the low of Monday or Tuesday rather. And then underneath that, we can target the low of the previous Friday. And then there's a small gap underneath that into the previous Thursday at 192.53. So that's the play for AMD. I'm just going to watch, see if it breaks. I'm going to go ahead and set my alert at the low of day. 205.60. Let's just do 65 is okay. Fine. Break below that, and then it can work its way into some of these lower lows. So that's what I'll be watching for AMD. Let's look at SQ. SQ looks like a cup and handle. Yeah, I'm sure. Yep. I haven't seen SQ in quite some time. So good consolidation in this box. Let's see. Yeah, so there's a level here at 85.30. There's a potential 3-bar play here on the weekly, right? Or 4-bar play rather. This is actually a very, very nice weekly chart. We did have a consolidation, broke their support, and then ripped and gave us like 8 back-to-back weeks or 9 back-to-back weeks of higher highs. Pulled back to the 50-day moving average, went sideways for 6 weeks. Good igniting bar, strong candlestick to break all the highs of all these weeks. It came back to test this high again at 83.08 or so, right? 83.29, so a little bit higher, but it did rip above all these highs. The next candlestick was an inside bar, resting bar, right? Price didn't break down. Price just kind of chilled. And then last week, price came and tested low, made a new low, tested it, and buyer stepped in and brought it higher. Engulfing bar, bullish engulfing on the weekly for Square block, right? And bullish engulfing still within the range of this candlestick. So 2 things can happen. It can either reject at the highs here and fall back to the 50-day moving average, and what's more likely is I think it can rip through this high, right? Rip through the high of 3 weeks ago and work its way potentially into right above 85.30 and then 89.97. So I'm going to go ahead and set an alert on this. This is a very, very beautiful setup on a weekly chart. Let's look at the daily on this real quick. Yeah, and then on that daily, we had a strong move up, pull back, good consolidation. Didn't do so good on earnings. They beat on revenue. They didn't beat on earnings per share, but it did get a strong gap to the upside. A little bit of sell pressure, brought it down, lower low, but then ripped back up. So potential double bottom there. Potential double bottom sitting here at a double bottom above consolidation, filling some of these gaps. So 85.30 is going to be my first target. Actually, the very first target we'll target is the high of the setup, 83.29. Above that, 85.30. Then you got 88, and then you got 90, pretty much, right? 90. I'm going to change this one to 90. Very, very nice setup on this. Definitely will be watching this this week. SQ. SQ. All right, next one is Disney. Thank you for that. No. Next one is Disney. What do I like about Disney? What do I like about Disney? Oh, the 20-day. I just want to see what it does with this 20-day. I was looking for calls. It was looking very bullish, especially since we got all the moving averages are lined up at the way that they should be, right? The lower numbers above the higher numbers, right? The 20, 50, 100, 200. Good consolidation here. Finally caught up to the 20-day moving average, 20-day rather, caught up to price. If it can, now this looks a little bit interesting here because you got a little bit of a support sitting at this level here. And you got price almost like sort of like expanding to the upside there. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. I really want Disney to hold that 20-day moving average, because if we hold a 20-day moving average and form another doji or even like a little small, body candle on top of that 20, then I know that we're working our way back up. And that's it. That's what I'm looking at for Disney. I'm not looking for a short play, even though a short play wouldn't be terrible here if you did go below Thursday's low. Set your stop to Thursday's close, and set your target to, even like over here, you get a nice 2-to-1, right? Nice 2-to-1. You could ride that. You could bring your stop down, or you can go ahead and bring your target down. You get a nice 3-to-1. And if you got, obviously it would be a Hail Mary, but anything into this gap will be a monster play. But I don't see it happening. It hasn't happened here, and so I don't see it happening quite yet. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do like Disney for whatever price action it decides to give us this week. Next one's Airbnb. Airbnb, negative report on earnings. They beat on revenue, which is a little bit surprising, but it is what it is. It hit. I had a target set up for 168.19, or sorry, 168.24. It gave us 168.19 and rejected, so it got pretty close to it. I want to see where it finds support. I'm looking for support somewhere in this area here, somewhere in this area there, for a continuation move to the upside. I saw a lot of bullish behavior on the way people were buying Airbnb this week. So I want to see a continuation of that. Right. The next one is Boeing. Did you guys all see that video of the wheel falling off the plane? I think that's like a little bit of foreshadowing of what's going to happen with Boeing's price action. I think it's going to fall off the plane. I think that I will look at Oracle. I think that we test this level here. If we can't find support there at 197.15, I think we work our way down into some of these lower levels. I think maybe, actually, I'm going to bring it over here for some perspective. I think 193.27 is going to be a level to stop at. And I do see a little bit of demand here. But I would love to short Boeing back into this 192 level. Yeah, they landed and the door was open where the pets were. Happened within the last few days. I feel like it's like once a week there's an incident with Boeing. Like their experience is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I just see I see it continue to happen. So I think that the price action is finally going to reflect it. It's been going sideways a bunch. I think it's going to go down. I based on what I'm seeing, Potential cup here, little handle here, rip to the downside. That's what I'm looking for a Boeing. Let's look at Oracle. Oracle, I want to see it hold a 200-day moving average. Underneath that 200, you could target the 50. Yeah, I know. Boeing is like, yeah. I feel like Boeing investors are very evil people, because it's like, yo, what are we talking about? You're talking about what should be bad news, and the price goes up. I don't understand. Let it go down first, so you can at least get it on a discount, right? Like, come on, guys. They usually, it's one of those where they send it up. You get bad news, they send the price up. Oracle underneath the 200-day moving average, back to the 50. $2 move to the downside at $110. They have earnings tomorrow afternoon. So if it can hold the 200-day moving average, I mean, it's lotto, right? At this point, I would follow the bullseye, follow Babe, and if you follow any of those flow services, go ahead and just look at those. If you're on Thinkorswim, go ahead and look at go to Oracle, go to the bottom of the trade tab and look at the biggest orders, and just take a really look at the open interest and volume on the call side and the put side. Very importantly, look at the call side and the put side volume for, if you want to play like $5 out, look at $5 out on April's expiration, call side and put side. Look at $10 out April expiration, call side, put side. Look at $10 out May expiration, call side, put, right? Like, start looking at the overall direction. Look at more, give yourself more time and give yourself some more strikes out, and you'll see a pattern. You'll see where big money thinks is going to go. Big money's not buying weeklies. They're probably trading June by now. So I would look at some of those, and we could look at it together. I don't know. Let me see. I don't have it on this computer, but tomorrow we'll look at it. We'll look at some swings. I mean, we have all day, right? And at this point it'll be straight lotto, unless you want to buy like some April calls or April puts, and then at that point you can give it some time to recover. But it needs to hold the 200-day. Underneath the 200-day, you can target the 50. Underneath the 50, we got, I would say it would probably come back to this level here, 108. Above that, we got 114. Then we got a little bit of a gap right there. So I'll be watching those levels for Oracle. Next one is Snowflake. Snowflake looks like it's ready to fall some more. Let's see. I like the support that's here, so I think we would test that area. We're currently sitting at a level of previous resistance. If you just look across the screen, right? It was resistant. It was resistance here. It was resistance and support here. A little bit of resistance here. Little support, resistance on one day to the next. So that's kind of a key level. If it does break that 162.40, I think we can go down to 155.77. So I'll be targeting it for sure. Next one is Uber. Uber is not ready yet, but I do like where it's at. Weekly chart, fresh high, consolidation, resting bar, inside bar, potential 3-bar play. It gapped up and came back down. Failed 3-bar play or failed 4-bar play usually still is bullish. It just takes longer. 2/3 of the time it'll keep going up. So 2/3, we have 2 chances to go up, 1 chance to go down, pretty much. And by fail, I mean like come back all the way down to the bottom of this candlestick, which I don't see that happening, right? I mean, unless it wants to go back and retest the 50-day. But I don't necessarily see that happening, especially with good earnings, strong guidance. They have some partnerships in down the pipe. And there was something else. Let me see if I could. Let me see. They're running ads. That's what it is. They have an ad service within the apps, which is very interesting. But let's see. It almost engulfed the previous candlestick to the downside, but we do have buyers here. This whole area here has a bunch of what used to be sellers on this candlestick. Now it's all buyers at this level. So I'm just interested to see what happens with it. So I'll be watching it for this week. Last one, Carvana. Actually, I want to take a look at Apple too. Carvana on the I like the weekly better. So just for some perspective, let me just zoom out. This thing, it went on one of these crazy wild tech runs. Price was way up here, came all the way down, found some support, made a strong base. It was basing around here at $3.53. Now it's back to $85. So anybody who sniped it down here, imagine that. People made money on this. But I think that Carvana, strong move on this week, strong bullish engulfing, right? Bullish engulfing breakout candle, igniting bar, ripping through all this resistance. Right, you got all this resistance here that got taken out by this one candlestick. And then strong continuation move this week, or last week, 2 weeks ago rather. And then last week, a little bit of a continuation, but slowing down. I think that price needs to stay above this box, right? That's why I drew this box. Price needs to stay above this box here in order for it to continue to work its way up these levels. But it did hit my level at $90.04. The next level is $96.30. Above that, $103.42. If it does break down below the low, I think it's going to just come back to test maybe like Tuesday's low or something like that. So we'll see what happens. Let me see. If it does break down, it'll probably go back to that 75.80 for Carvana. Now, Snowman called out Carvana 100 calls for this week's expiration. And I agree. If it does, this day, Friday was a red day in the market. Everything went red. This thing gapped up, went red, but still stayed above the previous consolidated area. So if we get a nice green day in the market with some of these tech names or some of these services names, this can easily, above 90.04, we got 96.30, above that 103.42. Very, very easy. It can do it in 2 days if it wanted to, right? 2 good days. It'll bring us right into 100. So that's definitely a play that should be on your radar, especially if you didn't jump on it when S called it. Maybe Monday morning you get a good price on it. So, and let me take a look at Apple real quick. And actually before Apple, I want to take a look at Meta. So Meta's trending upwards, working its way up the ladder, this Fibonacci ladder, making all new highs, rejected, bearish engulfing, but still buying pressure. Holding that 504.52. So I want to see what's up with that come tomorrow. Microsoft on the weekly. So it's just consolidating. It's very, very interesting price action here. Microsoft has been absolutely the strongest out of these names. I think obviously, Meta and obviously Nvidia, but the OG FANG, I can't really count Nvidia. Meta's been on an absolute tear. Microsoft has been the leader because they've been the first one, weeks ahead of the rest of the price action of some of these other names. It looks like it's consolidating, waiting for the 50-day to catch up. So I want to see what's up with that 50-day once it gets to it. It looks like we got a little bounce on it over here, but it wasn't really a 50 bounce. It was more like a support bounce, right? Little support bounce. I want to see it touch the 50-day, touch the bottom of this channel, and then retake that 20-day moving average, and then try to make some of these new highs. Let's see. Nvidia got hit with a lawsuit, allegedly using copyrighted works without permission to train its AI platform. Interesting. Kathy was probably calling it a bubble, and now they're calling the shit a duck market. I cannot with these people. Last one that just really upset me. Last one is Apple. So as we discussed on last week's call, I was looking for Apple to work its way into 171. Let 171 be a level where I'm a buyer. I didn't notice that it was at 170. I haven't looked at Apple in quite some time, but I do like it at this level. If it does fall to 100, I still like it. If it falls to 50, I still like it. Right? Apple is going to be one of those tickers that I will continuously load until my daughter's account is full, pretty much. That being said, I think that now that we've broken this level of support here, it put in a green day on Friday, which is interesting. I think that we can break down and come back and test that 166. Above 160 or below 166, it can get extremely interesting. Below 166, we can probably come back to test 160, right? Let's just call it 160. So I'll be watching that for Apple. Let's look at Lulu. Lulu was doing something nice on Thursday. I was looking at it on like the smaller time frame, and I saw this massive candle ripping through all these moving averages. Came back, retested the 100-day, came back, made a new high, came back, retested the 20-day, right? So what I want to see with Lulu, and you said they have earnings in 10 days. So it would be a good time now to get in if you want to play earnings. Lulu's wedging between the 20-day moving average and price. Let's see. Yeah, most people have buy, holds leaning towards buy. Some analysts have sell on it. The majority of analysts have either hold or buy on it. And then there's strong buy also, but they're saying buy. Looking at it, we were forming lower lows, and now looks like we may have, and this could just be like a bounce before we make a new lower low, but this price here is a little bit higher than that price, right? We haven't broken out and made higher highs yet. We're still, I'm just gonna pull it from over here. We're still trending downward. This can easily be Lulu at the top of the channel, ready to reject. The 20-day is going to be, the 20 and the 100 are going to be two major factors for whether this continues to move up or hold or whatever the case is. But it is inside of a channel that's falling to the downside. Let's see. If it can get above that 50-day moving average, that'll give us a lot of strength. But I mean, all these moving averages, usually whenever like the 20 pulls back, the 50 pulls back, the 100 kind of catches up. Some of these are going to cross down, and then from there, it usually works its way back up. So I think that Lulu might, and again, they have earnings in 10 days. Same thing. Look at the strikes. Look at the expirations a few weeks out. Follow Bot Bay. Follow Black Box, etc. Follow the overall sentiment on Twitter, and you can see if you look deep enough. Like I think that some of the earnings plays you can tell which way things are gonna go. But you have to like tune everything else out. And I'm not very good at tuning everything out because I have to keep an eye on everything. But if anyone's interested, we can talk about it a little bit more. That's it for tonight, guys. I'll share my strategy for how I look at earnings to decide which way things are going to go, where I think things are going to go. Obviously, it's a coin flip. Sometimes it's like you're calling tails and it's a two-headed coin, right? I mean, there still is no way of telling, but you can do enough homework to give you strong conviction, right? So, but that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being on this call with me. We did about an hour, so I'm happy to cut it off here. And the replay will be up in about maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, have a good night. Thank you.